Thanks a lot for that, Mitesh. Now, the big talking point, whether GST clears the final test. I think that's something that we'll try and establish today. What are the kind of numbers that add up, and in what shape or form, if GST does get passed, is it beneficial, and how beneficial could it be? Because we've had a number of discussions about how this is a diluted bill and maybe not as beneficial, but there's an equal number of people who say that it's the most wanted reform. So let it go through in the shape and form that it is going through. Changes can always come in later as well. I think the talking point for today, though, the talking point of this discussion is what are the kind of numbers that add up as well, and how easy would it be for this bill to pass the Rajya Sabha test? That it would have passed the Lok Sabha was a given. The crucial test is what happens in the Rajya Sabha. To talk about that, we got Mr. N.K. Singh, who is member of BJP as well, to give us the political side, and then Mukesh Butani, chairman of BMR Advisors, to talk about how important or how crucial is this, to what a lot of people say is a diluted version of the actual GST bill. Gentlemen, both of you, thank you so much for joining in. Mr. Singh, the burning question to everybody's mind, over the weekend we interacted with a lot of retailers, with a lot of dealers. Almost everybody is asking this. Will the GST bill see the light of the day in the Rajya Sabha? What are your thoughts? How do the numbers stack up?
Well, very frankly, I'm an optimist that at the end, better reason will prevail upon all political parties, particularly the Congress, that this bill is really beneficial to the Indian economy. It was a bill which was quite a bit pushed during their time. It is a bill which by and large satisfies and balances the interests of all stakeholders. And that holding up this bill by wanting to send it to a standing committee would be a needless waste of time and needless opportunity wasted for the economy. So I have a feeling that at the end, all political parties would come around for giving really a thumbs up to this bill when it comes up before the Rajya Sabha. I'm of the view that at the end, Congress party realizes more than anyone else that holding up important economic reform like this will not go down well with the people of India.
Mr. Singh, all of us are optimistic, and trust me, all of us want that GST should sail through on the floor of Rajya Sabha. But let's be realistic here and let's talk about numbers. And the current administration is lacking the numbers.
You see, that's why I feel that we recognize that we are short of the numbers, but we are definitely hoping that better reason will prevail on the Congress party. Better reason will prevail upon some of the other regional parties which have so far not come on board, but many regional parties have come on board already. For instance, the Trinamool Congress, Derek O'Brien made a rather impassioned speech in the Rajya Sabha just 3 days ago, inquiring from the finance minister when the GST bill would come up before the Rajya Sabha. So many regional parties are already on board, and we believe at the end better reason will prevail and better economic sense will prevail upon the Congress party, and they will also come around. We do not expect this bill to be a divisive one. We expect that this bill and the economic compulsions of this bill will unite opposition parties to back the government bill which is going to be introduced after its passage in the Lok Sabha.
Okay, that's the underlying point. Better reason will prevail across political parties for the approval. Mr. Butani, wanted to get in your perspective as well. Now, the task is going to be manifold with respect to the approval coming about in the Rajya Sabha. And given that all systems also don't really seem to be in place, how realistic really does the implementation of the GST bill look, according to you?
I think Mr. Singh summed up the political ramifications and the possibility of the bill going through. Let me just talk a little bit about the developments that occurred in the last week. In the Empowered Committee meeting on Friday, a very important decision was taken, which is the threshold that should be acceptable from a GST standpoint. We all know that the center was looking at a threshold of 25 lakhs, and eventually it has been agreed that the threshold would be 10 lakhs, 5 lakhs for the northeastern states. I think the center's argument was driven by the fact that small traders will not be able to adapt to the sophistication of IT network. but I think better sense prevailed, and I think there is a clear consensus insofar as the threshold is concerned. I think this was a big bone of contention. So I think the State Finance Minister, which comprise of the empowered committee, would certainly, in my view, put the requisite level of pressure across political parties on their chief ministers to be able to support this. To your point, I think there are two possibilities. I mean, one, the Rajya Sabha passes this bill, in which case clearly the April 2016 target is achievable, or the Rajya Sabha then refers this to the select committee. I think in either of the scenarios, in my view, April 16 is an achievable target. There's phenomenal amount of groundwork that has been done by the government on GSTN, which is the authority set up to be able to look after registrations.
Yes. Sorry. No, I just wanted to get your views, because this was a very crucial point that I wanted to check with you. You know, there have been people, and you could argue that they are skeptics, but they made some valid points. They say that even if this gets cleared by the Rajya Sabha, there is still the appointment of the software vendor who will essentially design the whole system pending. Then you still have to get comments from all the impacted parties about what are the changes that they would like to see, or what are the crucial points that they would want to bring on board. And they believe that for such a mammoth task to happen, even if the Rajya Sabha clears it today, tomorrow, whenever, there is very little chance of April 2016 being met. You beg to differ there?
I think you're presuming that the GST and a substantial amount of groundwork has not happened, which is not correct necessarily. I think a lot of groundwork has happened. I think the next 6 months are adequate enough to be able to achieve the desired objective. I think most corporates are gearing up. They are adapting their IT systems to face the April 2016 deadline. So I think, in my view, the biggest hurdle still is the passage of the constitutional amendment bill. I don't think the semantics and the processes of GSTN should hold back. And even otherwise, there would be niggling issues, and for which the GST Council is there to be able to resolve the issue. So I don't think that implementation date for April 2016 should in any manner be impacted just because the processes are not in place. I think a substantial amount of groundwork has already happened, and I feel confident that we will be up and running in April 2016.
Singh, are you sharing that optimism as well, that implementation is not going to be impacted, that groundwork already has begun?
There are other aspects.
No, I share that optimism fully.
Go ahead, Mr. Singh.
No, I totally share the fact that I'm aware that enough groundwork has been done. The preparation has been going on for quite some time, and I'm quite sanguine that with the passage of this bill in the Rajya Sabha, we will certainly adhere to the timeline of April 1, 2016. So I'm convinced that this bill is now an economic necessity. I'm convinced that there is wide-ranging consensus, and I'm convinced that better economic wisdom and reason will prevail in the Rajya Sabha for a passage of this bill during the current session of Parliament itself.
What if political compulsions take over, Mr. Singh? What happens if today the GST bill is deferred? I hope not, but what if?
No, but the point is that, we cannot react to hypothetical possibilities, because clearly, also it depends upon whether it's deferred for a week, 10 days, 15 days, in which case this timeline will not really get really altered. But of course, if it is deferred for a very long time, then of course that's another matter altogether. But right now, as we are poised, and right now as everybody looks to India really wanting to achieve that 8% rate of growth, and that everybody recognizes that this has an important contributor to the GDP. The figures may vary between 1% to 1.5% incremental addition to the GDP figures. I'm persuaded that, like in many other bills in the past, at the end of the day, better reason will prevail upon the members in the Rajya Sabha across political parties. And this will really be a bipartisan support to important economic legislation which the GST ushers in.
As a representative of BJP, what is the number tally looking like? You're in the best position to tell us the number picture.
Well, clearly our numbers do not add up to half, but let's take many of the regional parties. We are definitely counting the fact that TMC will come on board. We are counting on the fact that for the ADMK will come in. We are certainly counting on the fact that the Janata Dal United will want to back a bill of this kind. There have been discussions about this in the past. So I think that nonetheless, I do not think that this is a kind of a game in which we'll get tantalizingly close to the numbers. We can, but I think definitely we would like to have the Congress fully on board for the passage of this bill. And we would like the Congress to recognize that they should not be held responsible by the people of India for holding an economic legislation of this kind, which they had done a lot to foster, and which they are now, I think, duty-bound to support, looking at the overall economic interest of India.
Trust me, Mr. Singh, me, Nikunj, Ayesha, and I'm sure Mukesh Butani as well are hoping for the same. So we do hope that those numbers do add up. But Mukesh, final thoughts from you. We kind of did an informal chat with some experts with regards to GST on Friday. And they said that the government has kind of taken in almost all the suggestions that the states have given. They've probably added a couple of very realistic points to the GST. The only one howler, if you will, is that interstate levy, which is also, I believe, a temporary phenomenon. Do you think the best has been done till now, or a couple of things need to be edited or deleted from the GST bill in its present form?
Well, as we all know, I mean, one of the reasons the states were not supporting putting politics on the side was a concern by the manufacturing states that the corresponding loss of revenues to them would be significant. And because, as you know, GST is a consumption and a destination-based tax. So we had states across political parties, including the BJP. So, Gujarat, Haryana, Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu, some of the large manufacturing states did really fear that the loss of revenues as a result of the, interstate state tax would be substantial. I think the conciliatory formula that has been worked out is a additional levy of 1% that would be charged by the state where the goods origin. This will accrue to the states of manufacturing. Now, from a principle standpoint, this goes against the grain of the GST, because GST talks about consumption-based tax. But I think it's a levy which over a period of time will speak for itself. I think as soon as the loss settles down, this levy can perhaps be relooked at it. But I think it's an excellent formula that has been worked out by the government. And it's a classic example that some of the states are including BJP manufacturing states as well. So, yes, there is a compromise that is there, but you might as well have GST taking into consideration the larger economic objectives than not have a GST. So this reconciliation is something that should be acceptable to businesses and to the states as well.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Singh and Mr. Butani. We'll leave it at that. And we're certainly all smiles, Mr. Singh, on that statement, expecting the TMC, AIA, DMK as well as JDU to come on board with respect to the GST implementation. And of course, we had Mr. Butani also saying that April 2016 looks fairly achievable in terms of a target. But let's shift gears and move away from the big topic of the day, from GST to some corporate earnings then. Orient Cement in focus. Margins came in better than expected, but the sales growth was a tad tepid. We've got Deepak Khetrapal, who is the Managing Director and CEO Orient Cement, now joining in on the show. Thank you so much for being with us. To start off with, what was the key factor that attributed to the decline in volumes for the fourth quarter, and where do you see your volume growth headed?